Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traitors Nation, and pleased to have with us here today book author Kingsley Browne. He's book author of Co-Ed Combat, The New Evidence That Women Shouldn't Fight the Nation's Wars. Of course, as always, welcome. Kingsley, how are you today?
Just fine, thanks, Kurt. Thanks for having me on.
Good pleasure. Okay, this is without a doubt going to be a hot topic, okay? We're probably going to get emails cussing at us and everything else, but please provide, what's the evidence that women shouldn't fight the nation's wars?
Well, there's a series of bodies of evidence. One, the obvious one is physical differences in strength and so forth that are quite substantial. There's very little overlap between men and women in strength, and the common argument that the strength doesn't matter anymore, that this is a high-tech world and it's brains, not brawn, just isn't true if you look at what the troops over in Iraq are doing and carrying around with them and so forth. So the physical differences still make have a big effect.
Sure.
But even beyond those are psychological differences. There are large differences between men and women in willingness to take physical risks, for example. Even in the civilian world, something like 93% of workplace deaths are men.
Yeah. All right, so we're really talking about here today of physical differences and psychological differences, and this isn't just come out of the air. This is scientific study. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, there's a huge amount of research on these issues, and it's not just even the individual differences. Men tend to be this way, women tend to be this way.
Yeah.
But also the effects of sexually integrating a group and what effects that has on how the group performs as a whole. And those are some differences that are sometimes even more important than just the individual differences in physical and psychological differences between the sexes.
Sure. All right. So what about when we're talking about in a combat role, front trenches, shooting the whole 9 yards? So what about a supportive role?
Well, it depends on what kind of supportive role. I mean, you remember that Jessica Lynch was in a supportive role, and she and the rest of the people in her group were subjected to pretty combat-like conditions,
Sure.
and so even positions we don't really think of as being combat roles, such as supply and maintenance. If it's supply and maintenance jobs in a war zone, you may very well have to engage in combat, as did some of the people who were with Jessica Lynch, although not Jessica Lynch herself.
Right. Now you're going to have women out there saying, "Listen, I can shoot a weapon just as good as any other man out there," and she wants to be in the front line fighting, and you wouldn't have her, would you?
No, I wouldn't, and it's not just the ability to shoot a weapon, it's also
Sure.
the willingness to kill people, but also simply the effects of integrating women into groups. Combat groups have to be cohesive, and cohesive groups are cooperative, focusing on a mission. And if you take a group of late teens, early 20s guys who are focused on a mission, drop a few women into the group, and all of a sudden their focus is somewhere else.
Right, and let's face it, testosterone is going to be is rampant at that age. I'm 42. I think I'm still peaking. By the way, I don't know. Seriously. I think you're right in that aspect. But as soldiers, shouldn't they be professional? And in a combat area, can you get rid of all that and just worry about your duties? Well,
I don't know if you've heard of this book called Love My Rifle More Than You by a woman, Kayla Williams, who served in Iraq. And she described her experience in Iraq as a massive frat party with weapons.
Right.
And the fact is that there's human nature, and military discipline doesn't always trump human nature.
Right.
Another problem is that I don't think, and I developed this argument at length in the book, that men are basically hardwired to follow women into combat. That is, there are certain things that evoke the kind of trust that's necessary in a cohesive group, and a lot of those things operate at an emotional level rather than a cognitive level, and the people that men respond to in terms of combat leaders and comrades tend to be men with what we would consider stereotypically masculine traits.
Right. There's an cadence in the service. This is my weapon, this is my gun, this is for shooting, this is for fun.
Right.
You know it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Can all volunteer Army, can they really, at this point, reject women into the service? I mean, we're past that. It's not going to happen where we're not going to accept women into the military is in any role, I think.
Well, I mean, my argument deals only with women in combat. I think that there's a large role for women in the military generally.
Sure. Sure. All right. Nursing, things of that nature.
Well, nursing and also, the majority of jobs in the military are similar to jobs in the civilian world, and it's a minority of military personnel who actually serve on the sharp end of the spear.
Yeah.
But in terms of can we afford it in terms of numbers, one thing that you see with the Iraq War is that the percentage of female enlistees in the Army is going down.
Yeah.
Because of their reaction to being exposed to combat risks. So
right.
The more exposure they have, I think the fewer women you're going to see anyway.
Well, would you agree that we got a severe double standard that's going on in political correctness? I'm not one for PC. I think everybody should be equally brought to the forefront. If they want to do this, they shouldn't be held back. But we got a double standard here?
Well, there are huge double standards in terms of the demands that are placed on men and the demands that are placed on women, especially physical demands. An 18-year-old female in the Army gets more time to run 2 miles than a 41-year-old man.
So why is that? I mean, if we want to be equal, everything should be equal.
Well, because if you had that kind of equality, then most women wouldn't be qualified, and that's not acceptable to some people. But there is a huge sort of political correctness element. People who are in the military know that if they speak out against women in the military, that's the end of their careers.
Right. All right. So that's where the PC comes in.
Right.
All right. Fair enough. We talk about females and prisoners of war. Jessica was one of them. Of course, there's also concerns of rape, things of that nature. Maybe another reason why women shouldn't be in a combat situation?
Well, yeah, absolutely. In terms of prisoners of war, most of the female prisoners that we know of have been sexually molested in some way, and that's going to continue to be a problem. Now, some people would say, well, if a woman's willing to take the risk, let her. But it's not just a risk to her, because if a male prisoner, if they're trying to get information out of a male prisoner, the enemy has a big lever, and if there are female prisoners, in terms of threats against the female.
Sure. All right. Fair enough. Now we're going to have it male, female, co-ed type of situations. We're going to have that in training and operational units. Should we be segregated, or should it be co-ed?
Well, some people argue that many of the problems that I identify come from sexual integration as opposed to just women specifically, that you could have sex-segregated operational units, female battalions. And I think the answer to that is you're not going to find you're going to find virtually no women who are willing to go into combat without being surrounded by a lot of men.
Right. All right. Now, Kingsley, yourself, have you served in the military?
No, I haven't.
Okay, fair enough. Now, where can we find your book at? Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the bookstores?
I don't know how widely it's available in the bookstores yet.
Sure.
It is available off of Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. I know that for sure.
All right, fair enough, good enough. Kingsley Browne, he's with us here today. He's book author of Co-Ed Combat, the new evidence that women shouldn't fight nations' war. Appreciate your time today on Traders Nation.
Thanks very much, Kurt.
You're more than welcome. All right, there you have it. Very interesting topic, without a doubt, and controversial, if you ask me. This is a type of topic that really can go on forever and a day. We could probably do 20 shows, 20 hours on this topic just alone. So do yourself a favor, and if you have an interest in this topic, head out to your favorite bookstore today. Amazon's got it. Barnes & Noble has it, and get a copy today. I think it's newly released, okay? Kingsley Browne, we appreciate your time. So.
Such a touchy subject, man.
It really is. I mean, you get in. I don't know. I'm mixed on the topic. He has some. There is scientific data that supports some of the things that he says. I'm for one to give everybody a chance and do what they want to do, set their goals, and go 900 yards to get it. So I don't know. I really don't know. Would I want my wife in a combat role? No, because I'm a hawk. I want to protect. That's just how I am, and that's historically male-female roles that have gone on for centuries, since man was man and woman was woman. So I'm mixed on it. I think women are very smart, capable, and physically strong. You can argue, are they stronger or less stronger? I don't want to argue that. I think women...
playing it safe today, are you?
I'm playing
Is the wifey listening?
I'm playing it very safe. She's tuning in, and I'm going down the middle on this one. But no, I think that they're very critical. Women have always played very critical roles in every war that we've ever had in one way or another, and it's absolutely critical for women.
How many have made a huge difference on the front lines, though?
Well, see, that's the difference, though, is that women have, for instance, more women have died in the Iraq War than in World War II in the front lines, Korea, and then Vietnam all combined. It's a big difference. This war is different from all the other wars that we've had in the past in that combat role. Combat role.